What is good? We're back. And today we got a $500 FFPC Triflex Dynasty startup. So it's Superflex, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flexes, 2 running backs, right? It's full point PPR, tight end premium 1.5. In the maiden draft or the first draft, you can only draft 3 quarterbacks in FFPC for this particular draft settings, right? So that's the setup for the information of the current draft that we are in. Me and Corey have one going on here. We are multiple rounds in, but we're going to do the first 4 here, and then we'll set up the next 4 on the next episode. So, Big Co, how you doing?
Yeah, doing good. It's a lot of fun whenever you get an FFPC draft, and like you said, tight end premium, Superflex, Triflex. So they take out kickers and defense and fill those spots with 1 extra wide receiver, 1 extra flex. Take your time trying to figure out quarterbacks. Take your time trying to figure out wide receivers, and pack them in there. Try to get the best starting lineup we can get. Right?
Yeah. So we had a plan coming into this one. If we got an early draft pick, we were going to try to trade as far back as we can to acquire more stuff. Hopefully getting to be able to have more stuff around the 2-3 turn. It's not a 3rd round reversal. So we just kind of found that area to be an area where we liked a big group of guys, where we had a big selection of quarterback, wide receiver, potentially maybe tight end and running back, right? And there's a bunch of guys in that area that we like, so we can kind of go any which way we want with our team, right? So we get the 105 and we get kind of stymied, right? When you get an FFPC league, a lot of times there's a lot of trades flying around, and you might see some trades get made. But here we was kind of radio silence, and then radio silence on our end on as far as trades sent and received and counters. And when you're not getting counters, that begins when you start going, this isn't the best sign that we're going to get any movement here.
Yeah, not even quick rejections. The 1 or 2 guys that gave us a quick rejection, I sent them a note, said, hey, thanks for the quick rejection. What can we do here to change up some stuff? And, it's a 6-hour clock. Later in the summer like this, they're not 8 hours anymore. They used to do 12 hours. I don't think they even have those anymore. 6-hour clock. And, by the time we're both working, so by the time we're on the clock, but when we can actually sit down and do something about it, we got about 2 hours left. And so we send out all the trades that we can, and we're trying to trade back from what the goal in the draft is to trade back from 1.5 to build the equity. Like Casey said, the target was to trade back from 1.5 to 2.8, 2.9, 2.10, 2.11, 2.12, all that stuff there. So we sent trades to every single one of those teams to trade back from 1.5 to their 2 and 3. And we were offering back a 7 and some rookie picks next year, 2nd round pick next year, 3rd round pick next year. Basically, we just ran the full gamut. We sent 30 trade offers. The only respectable trade offer that we got from all of that work was to go from 1.5 to 2.12 and 4.12. And, looking back on it now that we're past those picks, I could see how that could have worked out in our favor or been an even trade at the time, after it all worked out. But you never know how those picks are going to go. And if the right picks get made all the way up to 2.11 and you're like, oh man, that wasn't as much fun as I wanted it to be, you're sitting there at 2.12 when you gave up a chance to get the 1.5 player. But with the bigger starting lineup, that's what we wanted to do, is back off of 1.5. We got really down to the nitty gritty, and we just literally couldn't get anything done. We got one offer to trade back from 1.5 to 1.7 and get a 3rd round draft pick next year. Probably should have taken that. We were in the heat of the moment. We were trying to do something, farther back, and it didn't work out. And we settled with a Hall of Famer. We took Justin Jefferson at 1.5. I've never been so more upset to have Justin Jefferson on my team, right? It was a huge blow to the overall strategy that we had. We had the only thing that we wanted to do was trade back from 1.5 to get started. And one rule I had was trade back from 1.5. And the other rule was don't project players into stardom over already good players, right? I just want to draft a bunch of, fill my team up with as many really good players as often as possible. And I'll figure it out as I go. You don't need a starting lineup in August, in June, May, June, July, August. Yes, it's Dynasty. I don't really care what my starting lineup looks like. as I'm going through this, I'm not like, oh man, I need a running back, or I need a tight end, or I need this. I need the best players I can get for us to work with our team. And not trading back from 1-5 was a bit of a bummer. We took Justin Jefferson, Hall of Famer. We were looking at, Brock Bowers, Bijan's there. He's on down the list a little bit for us at that point, but it was Neighbors, Brock Bowers, and
Hurts,
Jalen Hurts. So you really couldn't. It was the who's who of the overall guys minus Chase, right? So it was a couple of quarterbacks. The top quarterbacks are gone. Chase was gone, and we were looking at Justin Jefferson and Jalen Hurts, Brock Bowers, Malik Neighbors. Can't go wrong with any of those guys. And we in a 3 wide receiver league, we're like, hey, let's just stack this wide receiver. We'll put a Hall of Famer in our lineup to go 1-5 here, and let the air out of the balloon, but do it with a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, your plans get a little foiled here. It's definitely a bummer. You gotta pick it up and move on. You definitely could have made the trade back, and at the end of the day, we had 3 to 4 guys that we really liked there and would have been fine with it. But at that point, I didn't necessarily want to start a bad. There hadn't been any trades, and I didn't want to start a bad precedent of like the cost of setting the market of like being a third to move back a couple of picks, right? We're kind of jammed up, and at the end of the day, we probably should have done it and just acquired a little bit of something, and who cares? Because we like all these guys, kind of relatively the same for the most part. If we get stuck with Bijan Robinson, oh well, worst case scenario, right? Looking back on it, yeah, maybe we would have done that, but like out of spite and out of like, I don't want to set a market and a bad precedent here in this first trade that gets done, kind of elected to go away from that.
Yeah, the one thing that you could just say, if you would have made, there was no trades at that point. It was crickets. It was, like you said, all quiet on the front here for all kind of trades. No offers coming our way, not even good rejections, hardly any counters to that point. If we would have just made the trade and slid back to the 1-7, Justin Jefferson could have still been there, obviously. They could have taken Jalen Hurts and Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors, however you want to mix them up. But then once that first trade was done, we would have had our clock start back over. We could have been at 1-7, and who knows, maybe we would have got a trade back from there because maybe Hurts is off the board or this or that. Maybe things loosened up after the first trade went down. And spoiler alert, no trade happens until the actual 2-12 guy gets on the clock. So this was the tightest startup league I've ever been in. I've never seen a startup league not make any trades until the 2-12 pick, and there was not another trade made for a while either. So it was, I don't know if it was the $500 thing or just the timing of the summer and people were running around having fun with their families or what have you, but there wasn't a lot going on. So we took Justin Jefferson. Good to go there. Yeah. Slide down to 208. What you thinking at 208, Casey?
It's a tight room.
Very tight.
We'll be back with more FFD after a short commercial break. If you're as serious as we are about Dynasty, you gotta be playing on FFPC. They are now the proud home of over 2,000 Dynasty leagues, and not a single league has ever folded. Incredible. Drafts are kicking off every day, so go over to myffpc.com and take your game to the next level. New users get $25 off their first league using code FFD. Holler at your boys.
At the end of the day, if you're going to tell me nobody's really going to trade and nobody's going to like make trades that I'm like, damn, wish we would have been on that trade because, we weren't active enough for talking to the right guys. And we can just make the picks. I'm completely fine with that. I would prefer, like, obviously trading in a startup is a lot of the fun of it. But like, if you just had a no trade startup, I feel pretty confident in the team that I can draft. What I don't want to do is have somebody else just be beating people over the head or really getting the advantages and then setting the league up for failure. So this is, while it wasn't what we wanted, I'm okay with it still at this point. So it goes Jaden Daniels, Jamar Chase, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Kind of knew those were going to be the first 4. Then it's Justin Jefferson at 5, Jalen Hurts at 6, Brock Bowers at 7, Malik Neighbors at 8, Bijan at 9, Joe Burrow at 10, CeeDee Lamb at 11, and Gibbs comes in at 12. And then the 2-1 is Brian Thomas. The 2-2 is Genty. The 2-3 is Caleb Williams. 2-4, Ladd McConkey. 2-5, Trey McBride. 2-6, Patrick Mahomes. 2-7, Puka. 2-8, Drake London. And that's where we come in, right? We're the 208. So we end up taking Drake London at that pick. Now, we were, there was a whole bunch of guys that we really liked coming down the board, but obviously Nico was on there, Drake May was there, Bo Nix was there, and Amon-Ra St. Brown were there. Those were mainly the guys that were on our radar there. And then Achane for sure, but we were like, hey, we got 305. Achane may be the target there. If he's there, maybe we take him, and that's going to be one of the ways that maybe we don't try to look to trade. If Achane's there, let's just take Achane because we like Achane quite a bit. Neither one of us have a ton of Achane rostership, but that's kind of what the 2-8 comes down to. Look, we're potentially trying to move around a little bit right there. Nico and Amon-Ra St. Brown are highly rostered players for me and Big Co. And Drake London, not quite as much. And I think Drake London has the potential to have, a nice wide receiver one season, ton of targets, ton of volume, touchdown upside with Penix. We saw it at the end of the season. Do I think it's going to be week 18? No, but do I think it's going to be very strong all season? Absolutely. And a little younger than both of those guys. So we at the 2-8, we end up going Drake London.
Yeah. I mean, there's not many people that have, become more popular than Drake London in the last couple months. And, I stated one of my rules was not to project, and Drake London was an absolute stud last year. And, for all the people that are out there doubting St. Brown right now, Amon-Ra St. Brown just 3 years in a row, stud, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nico Collins, everything every chart that comes out about how good wide receivers that they're supposedly finding different metrics and different advanced analytics and all these stats that you can come up with to show who's one of the best wide receivers in the league. Nico Collins is always at the top, right? So it was Drake London was our pick over those two guys, mainly for what Casey's just a great tiebreaker because my teams are filled with St. Brown and Nico Collins, and some of them I'm share those with Casey. So that was a good tiebreaker for us. And before we made that pick, I tried to trade back 2 spots, which would guarantee us one of Drake London, Nico Collins, St. Brown, and I tried to get a 3rd round pick next year. So I tried to trade back 1 spot, 2 spots. I sent both trades to those 2 guys, got rejected, which I don't fault those guys at all. If I'm sitting there 2 spots behind you and I'm like, why would I give you anything to move up when I can get St. Brown, Nico Collins, or Drake London, Mm-hmm. So that was just kind of how that played out. We offered the trade back a couple spots to stay in that awesome tier, just to slide down a little bit. Didn't get anything done. Took Drake London. So, through 2 picks, we got Justin Jefferson and Drake London, and that's a fantastic start in my book. I was super happy with those 2 picks. And then we get around the corner here to 3-5. And what you looking at 3-5 there, Casey?
Well, I mean, it's just like I said earlier, we were both kind of coming into it of like, hey, that 3, since trades aren't moving and we haven't really moved our picks around. Typically, our picks would kind of be scattershotted at this point in a startup. But again, fairly tight. Like you said, the 212 guy, he ends up making a deal and moving his picks around. That's kind of the first one to loosen things up. Still hasn't been a crazy amount of trades or anything crazy where anybody, pretty standard trades kind of going on. And 1 or 2 guys basically doing most of them at this point. Considering Nix and Drake May at that 9 spot, but it would have been nice to after we couldn't move back. I wanted to start with 2 wide receivers there. I was okay with maybe missing on Drake or Nix or seeing kind of what happens kind of around that turn scene if we needed to move that 5 up. But too much to no avail there. And we get on the clock at 5. We got Achane staring us in the face. So we have some conversations, and inevitably it's like, all right, well, this is a really solid start for our squad to have Justin Jefferson, Drake London. And if we add Achane, we've now got our RB1 and a potential top 5 running back in the league to add to the 2 PPR machines that we've kind of put up. Justin Jefferson being, one of the best wide receivers we've ever seen statistically through the first X amount of years of his career, and Drake London really coming on strong through his latest season, right? So we had Achane to this mix was kind of like, hey, I don't really want to move off this pick unless it's a fantastic deal, because I'd like to stock the cupboard with some Achane here.
Yeah, agreed. Achane RB5 last year at 17.5 points per game. We've all heard about, I assume everybody's heard about the splits with Tua on the field. His points per game made him the RB1 overall in those Tua starts. It just, the biggest thing about that is, like Casey said, we're we get on the clock at 3-5, and as we're on the way, we're like, 3-1, 3-2 is getting picked and this and that, and we're like, all right, well, 3-5 would be a really good spot to trade back. We were upset about the 1-5 no trade back, but we were super excited to get to Drake London, and now we've paired those two stud wide receivers together to anchor our 2 out of 3 wide receiver starters. It's just like, man, that's such a fun start. If we get to 3-5 and Achan's still there, it's going to be hard to trade that pick. But trading back from 3-5 would be a really smart move. Again, we want to add some depth, some quality depth in that 6, 7, 8 or whatever, just so we can get more starters because it's a bigger starting lineup. And then we get there and Achan's on the board, like Casey said. We couldn't pass up. But before we clicked that, before we took him, it's like, all right, well, we don't want to trade back, but if we can get an overpay here. So we sent the 4-6 guy, probably 4-5, 4-6, 4-4. We sent those guys the 1 round trade back and then moving our 8 up to a 5. So if we'll trade back 1 round and you pay us 3 rounds to do it, which is basically asking for a lot. And that's just kind of heat check in the room. And at that point, Marvin Harrison's on the board, Jordan Love's on the board, Amarian Hampton, obviously Devin Achan, Tet McMillan. I don't know whose your flavor might be, but like we put the trade, we sent offers out for a nice, comfortable overpay if we got it done. And of course we didn't get it. I didn't expect to get that deal done, but it was like hey, if you want your guy situation, come get him. And nobody took the deal, which was fine. And we got Achan and we kept it moving.
And you don't get like that. That's like you said, it's an aggressive deal. It's probably not going to get done, but like really you're fishing for like what the rebuttal would be there. And nothing at all really comes back.
Crickets really. We couldn't get anybody to send us in. Like you said, there's 1 or 2 guys in here. We've sent 1 million offers. We've received 3 counters from the same guy, right. And couldn't get anything going
around the same amount of acceptable trades that and back and forth of just like, not a whole lot. Right. So it's, and again, if the room's going to be that way, I'm okay with it as long as everybody's on the same page. Right. And we can we're going to mostly just kind of pick our teams. Right. So we can kind of see in the back half of this draft here right now that there's a bunch of quarterbacks from, rounds 1 through 3 in the 1 through 4 spot. Right. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks going in rounds 1 through 3 and picks 1 through 4, essentially. So we've got a big block of quarterbacks and, not so much on the other side of the board already. Right. So, but the thing is, when we're on the Achan spot, like there's not a whole bunch of quarterbacks that are really, tantalizing my taste buds, if you will, here. Like there's, I like Jordan Love. I wouldn't mind taking him there, but I don't want to pass up Achan. Like we'll play quarterback roulette a little bit. So we're going to kind of let it run out. And so we decide to inevitably pull the trigger on Achan. That 2-8 was Drake. The 2-9 was Nico. The 2-10 was Justin Herbert. The 2-11's Amon-Ra. The 2-12's Drake May, followed by 3-1 CJ Stroud, Bo Nix at 3-2, Saquon 3-3, Kyler Murray come in and right before that Achan pick, which was huge for us. And so we grab Achan, and then now we're coming up on into the 4th round, and we have to decide what we're going to do quarterback wise when we get here. If there's if Brock Purdy's maybe sitting there or around, or some other quarterback somehow makes it there that we love, but we're kind of entering in a spot where we know that 4 is probably not going to be a quarterback either, right?
Well, like you said, at literally as we took when we were taking the Achan pick at 3-5, we're like, look at all these quarterbacks on this side of the draft board from us. Obviously, there's going to be some quarterbacks that go off the board when we make this pick, but when we go back around, it might not be any quarterbacks that get taken. Maybe some at this point. Still, the trade market was nothing. There had been 1 trade. So we were like, even if there's somebody makes a move to trade in for a quarterback in that bracket on that side of the board from our pick, when we get back past our 4th round pick, all those guys over there have a bunch of quarterbacks already. So I doubt they'll probably be trying to fill up a wide receiver spot or a running back spot or something, And so we kind of had our eyes on that. And yes, some quarterbacks did go. I mean, we knew that was going to happen. You never know which ones and how early. And, like we see Jordan Love go fairly quickly after Achan, which is, understandable. And then, the floodgates open up a little bit. And Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, JJ McCarthy go off the board before we get back. But the whole time we were really looking at like Dak Prescott, Jared Goff.
Right.
And how do we get these guys on our team? So we get to 4-8, and I'm like, talking it over with Casey. I'm like, I really feel good about, Cam Ward's still on the board, stuff like that. I was like, I really feel good about Michael Penix is still on the board. I think that we can take another player here. We can put one more stud on our team and then I think Jared Goff or Dak Prescott will make it back to us. It doesn't matter which one. I think one of them will make it back to us, and then we can have our QB1. Right. And we're sitting there at 4-8 with a baller we're looking at.
What we needed to see, what was going to come out on the 6 through 12 side quarterback wise, right? So we take HN there, then it goes Marv, Hampton, Love, 308, JSN 309, McMillan, 310, 311, Garrett Wilson, 312 goes Trevor Lawrence. And then the 4th round starts with Rashee Rice, Brock Purdy, AJ Brown, 4-3, Baker Mayfield, 4-4, McCarthy, 4-5, Travion, 4-6, Bucky Irving, 4-7, who was somebody that Big Co came into the draft really wanting. And then so 5 quarterbacks go in that back half. But like Big Co saying, we get on the clock at 4:08. We know that we kind of want Dak or Goff, or both, if we can somehow manage that, right? That's kind of the quarterback game where we want to play, right? And that kind of played right into our hands. We knew that probably one of them would be there, regardless in the 5th. But really, what sends the trigger up or sends the alert up of like, hey, just like I was talking about with that back half of 1 through 4. And the boxes of the 3 rounds, there's 8 quarterbacks in there. So a bunch of them have already picked 2 quarterbacks through that area, right? So we know that you can only take 3. So we know that there's a really good chance that at least Dak or Goff gets back to us at the 5-5. So we can kind of relax here. We're taking a little bit of a risk, but we can still get one of the guys we kind of set out to after we avoided top end quarterbacks, right?
Are you a survivor? Are you not going to give up? Then you need to sign up for this new game called Fantasy Football Survivor. Instead of picking an NFL team to win each week, you set a new fantasy lineup. But you can only use a player once per season. Advance each week by staying out the bottom percentile and performing over expected. Drink. The contest is free to join. Sign up for the main event. Create your own leagues. What are you waiting for? Click the link in the description.
And so that leaves us on the clock at 4:08 with the decision of, do you want to round out your 3rd starting receiver, which is, with starting 3 wouldn't be the worst, or, because of the running backs that had run off the board, like you have Breece, Chase Brown, Kyron Williams, and those are really kind of all the guys left in this area that you're kind of willing to take. And then after that, that we're going to take Jonathan Taylor, sorry. And then so after that, that we're going to take a quarterback in round 5. So we're sitting out a whole nother round on another running back. So by the time we get back on the clock at 6, and then depending on who's there, we might need to take another quarterback. To me, it was like, hey, we can either shore up our RB2 right now with somebody that we really like, or we could potentially be in round 7, 8, 9 looking for our RB2. So personally, I wanted to get the RB2 locked in. And Big Co kind of agreed with me as well.
Yeah, and we were looking at Breece Hall, Sam Laporta, Rome Odunze, and Dak and Goff. So, like you said, like I said it coming in, I'm not looking for any necessarily like specific positions, but like it's a $500 league, and it is 3 wide receiver. We already got 2 stud wide receivers. We have a plan for quarterback, and this time a year ago, Breece Hall's a dynasty darling a year ago today. Literally, this time last year, he's an early round ADP after finishing up the RB2 in 2023. Came back from his ACL at the end of his rookie year to crush in 2023. He was the RB2. Last year, it was a down year, and he averaged 15 points per game. So, like, everything that could have gone wrong for the Jets last year went wrong, and Breece Hall averaged 15 points per game. We talked about this on our podcast, 3 months ago. Right. So like Breece Hall goes from 2.2, 2.3 startup value to we got him on the clock here at 4.8. He's like 23 years old. Right. So that was it's another chance for it. Would anybody be shocked outside of that one person sitting here saying Breece Hall sucks. Like Breece Hall could average 16, 18, 20 points a game easily. And, it's not about the RB2. If we didn't, it's just about quality play. Like, how many points per game can you get in your lineup without counting on the quarterbacks, right? So, like, yes, Lamar Jackson's 25 points, projected points in week 1. That looks fantastic. That's amazing. But, like, when we put a couple of quarterbacks on your team, you're going to score 17, 18, 19 points a game. And if you're full of studs everywhere, that team is really, really hard to beat. So, like, Justin Jefferson, Drake London, Achane, Breece Hall, that's a start I'm okay with. And like Casey said, we were in the 3rd round and we knew that the 5th pick was going to be a quarterback. So, like, when we're looking at, we could have taken Dak or Goff there at 4-8 and then seen what we could get on the clock at 5-5. But
see if we could get both our quarterbacks at 4 and 5, which would have been fine. And I think we would have got both our quarterbacks at 4 and 5. But we kind of, like I said, for me, the way I was viewing it is that if we don't take a running back here, by the time we get another chance to take a running back, it's going to be either an old running back or running back that, it's DeAndre Swift, in the 9th round, right? To be your RB2 for the most part. There's some other guys that could potentially work out. So to me, it came down really to Chase Brown, Breece Hall, and Jonathan Taylor, just with the pass catching. And Kyron Williams didn't have a contract at this point when we're drafting for the Rams. So maybe that would have put him back in the discussion some. And, I think Breece is, I don't know, the 2nd best, 3rd best receiving back in the league. Yeah. Obviously, situationally right now, it's not the sexiest. Chase Brown's is definitely better. But long term, Breece is probably going to leave the Jets next year. It's probably going to be kind of fun. And we don't know the plight of Chase Brown long term. Now, we've been caping for Chase Brown for a while. Definitely a little bit more uncertainty long term for whether or not Chase Brown maintains this bell cowish role, where I don't feel that way about Breece Hall kind of long term. And I already know that he's, an elite receiving running back.
Yeah, and he's elite running back too. Dude's an absolute stud. Yeah. So he's the absolute, like, 3-down workhorse, like bell cow type running back, which is why he was right there beside Bijan Robinson last year in ADP, and just, didn't work out. That's the NFL football. That's how it works. Breece Hall is going to be a wonderful bounce back candidate. And I'm super excited we got him on our team.
Yeah. So currently we got 2 wide receivers, Drake and Justin Jefferson, and then we got Achane and Breece Hall. And then, like I said, we're angling for our quarterback to maybe be in the 5th here. And we got a bunch of guys who have already taken quarterbacks kind of coming around this turn here. So we feel pretty safe about it. So let's wrap this one up for now. We'll come back. We'll take you through 4 or 5 more rounds on the next go around to see how the quarterbacks, obviously, if you've listened for a while, we like our tight ends. Pause. So we'll see if we can manage that situation, or we're punting, and see what other running backs kind of make it to us, and how we're going to play that 3rd, 4th, 5th wide receiver. So Big Co, you got anything else?
No, man, that was fun. I mean, I don't know how much teasing you want me to do. I could give them a little sneak peek into what next week's going to look like.
Whatever you want to do, Big Dog.
I mean, I don't want them sitting here on the edge of their seats wondering if we got screwed out of the quarterback situation. We prognosticated what the picks might be. We got Dak. And it was glorious. There were high fives. In the room. General manager, head coach, just, loving it.
Yeah. All right. So we'll pick up in the 5th round on the next go round of this, and we got a trade made on the next version of this for potentially a starting tight end. Who it is, who knows? All right. We'll wrap this one up. We're doing some more of this stuff on Patreon as well, if you want that beforehand, a little more unfiltered on that side of things. So if you want to come check that out, you get an extra episode every week on the Patreon side of things. And if you're not playing FFPC, make sure you check it out. You run out of Dynasty guys to play with real quick once you become invested in Dynasty. And it's really such a good platform because that the league will never fold. That's kind of their whole bread and butter. You can use promo code FFD. As you've been seeing over here, we've been longtime supporters of playing FFPC, and they have best ball and dynasty best ball and redraft, and they have all sorts of events that you can play in that are really fun and interesting and different spins on different things. So They probably got anything that you'd be interested over there. And if you haven't checked it out, make sure you're going to go check it out.
Yeah, we did the tight end trade. We did most of this on Patreon already, and the tight end trade is on there on Patreon. So if you want to go over there now, check that out. We'll bring it to you next week. But the logic on what, where, and when, and how the trade happened was pretty good.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Pretty good.
We'll see you next week. Peace.